Hey game designers, in this video we're going to cover how to attach the hands to the female model. Okay, so let's go and get started. On the last video we made the hands for the female or male. The only difference between female and male is that the female fingers tend to be a little bit more slender, so I tapered it a little bit more. But everything else should be relatively the same in terms of the topology and whatnot. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn back our cylinder for the female model, and let's go ahead and switch back to poly view on these. Now what we're going to do is we're going to obviously shrink the hand and move it closer to the our right side and her left hand. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to here and go ahead and scale down. We're going to use the R tool, which is to scale. And we're going to scale it down in both axes. Get it nice and small here. And we're going to use the move tool and go ahead and move it, out over here. And let's go ahead and move it up. And maybe frame it here. Move it more up. Move it all the way up here somewhere. Okay. And go ahead and reframe it on our screen over here. And now we're going to need to rotate this hand before we decide to make it bigger or smaller. So I'm pretty sure it's a rotation in the Y direction of 90 degrees. So this is in my channel box. Okay, and it looks like I'm good. Now it looks like I'm going to have to scale it down a little bit more. Okay, and let's go ahead and move it. Okay, now we might even want to turn on our reference here and before we decide how we like our hands. So if I hit the reference and hit H to re-show the reference here, you can kind of see on the side view here and even over here that the hands are a little bit too small. So we can fix the wrist later. So I'm actually going to go to the scale tool and scale it up a little bit more and now move it. And I think this is about where we want our wrist. Okay, so we have the where we're going to rotate it here, how we're going to scale it here. Maybe we could use a scale tool and just shorten the width a little bit. So we're going to scale down a little bit here, keep it more nice and slender so that it fits the wrist. Okay, maybe even a little bit more there. Okay, and maybe just move it up a tad bit. Okay, and maybe I want to move it a little bit further away. So I'm just using the frame key, the F key, to frame it so that I could see exactly where I want it. Okay, all right, so before we go ahead and duplicate this hand to the other side, I'm going to turn off my reference now, hide my reference. I'm going to take a look at this hand and look at the topology. So I'm going to hit number 1 to get back to poly view. I'm going to go back to my my mesh, my body mesh, and click back on poly view. And I'm just going to look at how many vertices we are dealing with here. So a quick way to do that is if you have your display, heads-up display, and Polycount, there's a tool right here that actually tells you how many vertices there are. So I'm going to click back on the hand, and I'm just going to click on these vertices like so. So I'm going to go to vertex mode. I'm going to highlight all these vertices, and it'll tell me, you can click B to turn off the soft select, that I have 10 vertices here. If I go back to the arm, and I click on vertice and I highlight these, there are 18. So there definitely should not be 18. Let me go check and see what's going on here. Oh, I have 9 on this side, and if I have symmetry on, it's going to choose the other side. So let me turn symmetry off real quick. So if I turn symmetry off and then I highlight these again, I have 9, which is 8 on the outside and 1 on the inside. So I'm not going to worry about that one. And let's go ahead and actually at this time go ahead and delete these faces. So I'm going to go to face select, and obviously we don't want this face here anymore. And let me rotate my camera, click on these faces, hit delete. Okay, and that will get rid of that one vertex that we have. And go back up over here, maybe move it out a little bit, and then go ahead and just go to face select. Just click on this face, this face, this face, and this face, and hit delete. So now we have our opening here, and let's go ahead and move it back, go back to object, move the W tool, and just move it close enough. Okay, so anyway, we have 8 on this ring and we have 10 on this hand. So let's go ahead and figure out a clever way so that we can kind of match the topology that we want to match up the vertices, similar to the Homer example. So what I'm going to decide to do is I'm going to click on vertex, and I'm going to click on these 3 vertexes. So I'm going to click on this one, and this one. Okay, and I'm going to merge them to the middle. Okay, so now they form one vertex and form a couple of triangles. And I'm going to scroll down here, rotate down here, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to click on this vertex, click on this vertex, click on this vertex. I'm just using shift left click here to click on all 3 of them. And I'm going to use the merge to center and merge them to center. Okay, and now I'm down to 6 vertices instead of 10. Okay, so I need to add a few vertices. I definitely really want to add one to the side somewhere. I want to add one here or add one here to kind of line up with these left and right and whatnot. So let's go ahead and do that. And actually, I think I look at my hand now. I actually might want to scale it just a little bit more. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit more this way, make it a little bit more narrow. Now that I'm a little bit closer, I can kind of see that that's what I want. Okay, anyway, back to what we were doing. I'm going to click back on this. I'm going to go use the multi-cut tool, and I'm going to create a vertex right here. So I'm going to go shift, left click here, and then I'm just going to shift it to the corner. So I'm just going to click on the very corner here, and I'm going to hit enter. So basically, I just created an extra triangle here that we could use to connect to the midpoint. And I mean, I think in the Homer video, I used a rectangle instead. And there's a couple of reasons why triangles are preferable over rectangles, but I'm not going to get into that discussion right now. So I'm just going to make the point here, and I'm going to cut it down to this corner here. And again, make sure that once you left click here and then left click here, you shift left click here to click on the middle, and then left click here, make sure you have to hit enter to actually perform the cut. So now if you look at my topology, I'm going to go back to vertex mode, and I'm going to select, oops, sorry, I use my Q tool here, that's my select tool, and I'm going to go back here and I'm going to check the number of vertices, and now I have exactly 8 and exactly 8 on the risk. So if I go back on the risk here, I click on this, I also have 8. So now I have matching 8 and 8 here, which is going to be great. So in terms of target welding, so now's the opportunity where I'm going to duplicate this hand and move it over to here. Or if I have any last moment changes I want to do, let's go ahead and turn on my reference again and see if there's maybe other changes that I want to do. So I'm going to go to my group number 2 here, hit H, click on my hand, frame it, kind of zoom in on the hand real quick. Yeah, move in here, and then go to smooth view. Okay, go to my object select here. And yeah, I think my hand is long enough, but I think maybe I made it a little bit too short. So I'm not thick enough. So I'm going to kind of scale it up just a little bit here. Okay, and now you can sort of see where I'm kind of matching the thickness and the width. So I got the thickness here, and I have the width here, and I have the length here. So now I think I have all the right amount of scaling I want to do, and that will make the hand look much more proportional. Okay, so I'm going to go back and turn off my reference with H. And now I think I'm ready to duplicate. Okay, so remember that when you want to duplicate, it is a 4-step process. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, and you're going to reset all these values to 0. Okay, so I'm going to do this by clicking the freeze transformation button right here, right, and it will turn everything to 0s and 1s. And if I use the W tool, you'll see that the pivot is in the center of the hand, and that's not good because I want to basically use a -1 scale and move it all the way over here. Okay, so instead I'm going to go to modify and then reset the transformation. So now the pivot is at the origin down here. Okay, so now when I flip it over the y-axis, along the x-axis, it's going to go over to the opposite side. Okay, so the next step is go to Edit and go to Duplicate Special with the little box. Make sure that you have Copy, Parent, and a -1 scale in the x-axis. So this is X, Y, Z. So this is X right here. Go ahead and hit Apply. And you see now I have another hand over here. And let's take a close look at this hand. I'm going to frame it. And oh, we already have an issue here. So actually, this is actually a great opportunity to make this a learning opportunity to fix something. So on my view over here, and my view over here, these hands should be symmetrical. And let's go ahead and fix it, finish this, by the way. So now that we got this hand duplicated and it has a -1 scale, you want to hit freeze one more time. So that's the 4th step. Freeze it one more time so that it becomes a bunch of 0s and 1s, so that we import it into Unity. It won't go inside out. Okay? So back to the problem I was just referring to. This hand has a little bit of gap right here. This hand does not. So if you look real closely, you can see that my left side doesn't match my right side. So that means something along the way, I must have lost symmetry. So let's go and click back on the body. And let's go to vertex mode. And let's see if I click on a vertex like this, does it click the opposite side? And the answer is no, right? So basically at some point I lost symmetry from my right to my left, which is very odd, but that's okay. This is a good learning opportunity. So if you don't have this problem, you don't have to kind of do this part of this lesson. But I do want to include this part as a way for you guys to learn how to fix symmetry issues. So to fix symmetry issues, we're actually going to go to Face Tool. And we're going to delete basically half of the faces. So I'm going to click kind of slightly to the left of the center here and highlight all these faces and hit delete. Okay, and now I can kind of zoom in and figure out that I have a few more faces over here. So I can see if I highlight these, hit delete here as well. And there's a few more over here somewhere. I can hit delete on that. Just highlight all of these, hit delete. Okay, so I deleted half of the faces, okay, from center line and beyond. And now I'm going to click back on this object, and I'm going to try to make sure that this thing is centered. And I believe it is not. So what I'm going to do is you can see kind of right here that half the body is kind of on the left side of that axis, which is why my duplicate and my symmetry is ruined. So what we're going to, in order to fix this, we're going to move this entire object by using the snap tool and moving it to 0. Okay, so and now we can click here, and you can see now all the vertices seem to line up just right on top of this. So when I was creating the object, it was definitely symmetrical, but for whatever reason I might have forgotten to move the translate of the object off x-axis. So there we go. Now we have the object perfectly symmetrical again, or at least aligned up to the x-axis. And there's a cool tool called Mirror. So if I go to Mirror, the Mesh tool, the Mirror tool, click on this little box right here to give up the options. You should turn, I think cut geometry is defaultly on. We're going to turn it off. We're going to make it a copy, an object. We're going to scale it off the x-axis in the negative direction. We're going to merge the center vertices together, and we're going to hit apply. And now you can see that it duplicated the object from this side to this side. So if I did it correctly, I can go to vertex now. If I click on symmetry on, you'll see that every point has a vertice on the opposite side. And it should be that way because we mirrored it as such. Okay, so let's go ahead and now that we are here, let's go check the hands, and let's go ahead and move them out. So I'm going to click on back to here, click on this hand and click on, again, if you didn't have this issue to begin with, then you're fine, okay? So this is only if you made a mistake like I did and somehow you lost symmetry. So I'm gonna grab this hand and this hand, and I'm gonna go to scale, and I'm gonna go, I think 1.1 in the X direction. Okay, 1 point, let's go 0, 1. Is that enough? Enough of a gap to work with? Let's go maybe 1.02. Okay, give ourselves just a little bit of a gap here. And I'm gonna go back and freeze the transformations. So again, if you didn't have this issue to begin with, don't worry about it. But it was a good opportunity to teach you guys some ways that you can fix your symmetry issues. Okay, so let's go back to what we were doing. We duplicate the hand, everything's zeros and ones, everything's zeros and ones, and we have this body that we want to merge it to. The next step is to take these three objects. So you can simply left click, shift left click, shift left click, have all these three selected here, and combine the meshes into one object. So we combine both those polys into one large poly here. And now we can finally go in here and weld these together. So make sure that your symmetry is now on, right? So whatever we do over here is going to do it over there. So let's go ahead and test if it works. So I'm going to go to vertex mode. If I click on this vertex, it should click on another vertex on the opposite side. You can see right there that one's yellow and that one's yellow. Okay? And I'm going to use the target weld tool, and I'm going to use center in this scenario. I'm going to kind of have a point in the center where it's going to align. So let's go ahead and rotate our perspective view here. Kind of move it up here. I want to weld it to that point. So I'm going to take this point, I'm going to left click and drag to this point here. And that will weld that together. So you can work your way clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever you want. I'm going to take this point and drag it there. Kind of rotate over here. Take this point, drag it there. Okay, look at this right here. Left click, drag over here. Okay, and I'm going to rotate my camera, frame it here, so zoom in, and I'm framing not on the hand anymore. So let's go ahead and move my camera. Okay, so go here and weld here, go to this one and weld there, and kind of move down here, zoom in, move down more, kind of go here and weld there, and rotate and move my camera, and I got one more, and voila. Now I have the hands welded together. Let's go and click on smooth view. Make sure you go back to this, like get out of the welding mode, and let's go to smooth view here and kind of see how we're doing. How is our model looking? So I'm going to go back and turn on the reference of, I think, my group number 2 here that we did to make the hands. I'm going to go ahead and hit on and kind of look at the hands and, and critique it a little bit and see if my wrist is maybe too small or whatnot. And it turns out it's actually pretty good. It's pretty on point here. So let's go ahead and turn it off and go back to smooth view. And yeah, it looks like my hands are pretty much on point. So I'm going to go back and click on group 2 and hide that reference again. And I am done. I have a female model. And it looks like so in poly mode. Let's go back to object mode. And kind of on smooth view here, and look, this is what we got going on right now. Okay? All right, that ends the video.